gripping my consensual dick. Consensual dick. Consensual dick.
Honestly, you know, I think that we can make this whole quarantine thing work. I mean, I feel pretty safe. This is the only toilet paper we've got left though. So we're gonna have to, I think if you like open up the toilet roll, that way we use every part of the kill. So
There are a lot of capitalists out there who believe in the idea of a meritocracy. The idea that people should get what they deserve based on their ability. That in essence, the most skilled, most innovative, most talented individuals should have an opportunity. It sounds great in theory, if we all lived in, say, fucking Toy Town. But in practice, it simply doesn't work. The truth is, some of the most skilled, innovative, talented people will die without the world having ever heard of them. Not everyone gets the same opportunities. Some lack money, some lack education, some lack the connections that actually get people moving up in the world. And then there are also, you know, all of the racisms and sexisms and queerphobia-isms. There are millions of people who lack the resources required to have their shot at a so-called equal opportunity, and plenty of talentless, lazy fucks who get to coast by on daddy's $1 million loans and continue to live in luxurious privilege despite a laundry list of bankrupt businesses and flagrantly shady activities to their name. You know how I know the concept of meritocracy is bollocks? It's not just the fact that talented people without resources have an up-mountain struggle to get their talents recognised, it's that if everybody got what they deserved, there would be so many self-serving, societally parasitic, talentless, stupid bastards at the top of the corporate food chain getting fired out of a fucking catapult into the sea, and yet the majority of those profane megalomaniacs will remain billionaires even during a time of socio-economic crisis that they are in no small part responsible for. If everybody got what they deserved, GameStop's executives wouldn't have a job right now. On Saturday, one day after the release of two tentpole games in Animal Crossing New Horizons and Doom Eternal, GameStop finally announced it would close its doors in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, spinning it as a decision made in the interests of safety. GameStop CEO George Sherman also said his company wouldn't force people to come into work and will compensate those who can't work at this time. This is good. But it's a decision made begrudgingly by GameStop, a company that attempted to operate and keep its workers exposed to risk only until the very last moment when authorities were starting to crack down and force store locations to shut. Until then, GameStop was knee-deep in unethical, ignorant, downright dangerous behaviour. So while GameStop finally did the right thing, let's not forget what the company did and didn't do. While all but the most essential businesses have been locking down to help stem the spread of COVID-19, the COVIDiots at GameStop fought tooth and nail to stay open. That's COVIDiots, that's fucking good. Craig, we're gonna make that the title of the episode today. So something, just use it. Just use it. Oh, everyone started using it literally before I was about to publish this. Can't have fucking anything. Anyway, the COVIDiots at GameStop fought tooth and nail to stay open, refusing to close locations or offer paid leave to anyone in an attempt to keep making money hand over fist. And worse than that, other game retailers are still engaging in the same behaviour, and they've done so under the radar while GameStop took all the heat. We will be talking about those fuckers too. On March 18th of 2020, GameStop announced that it would break street date on Doom Eternal, spinning the move as one made in the interests of public safety. This was a lie. This was a lie from GameStop, and I have no problem saying on the record that I 100% believe GameStop is run by liars. Liars that had a lot to gain from the exploitation of the coronavirus pandemic, and very little in the way of conscience to stop them doing it. To ensure we adhere to CDC recommended social distancing guidelines, we will be selling Doom Eternal a day early on Thursday, 3/19, as a safety precaution for our customers and associates. Animal Crossing will release on Friday, 3/20, to further help separate the crowds. Yeah, that's not a commercial at all, is it, you fucking c***? One must highlight the sheer lack of scruples involved in GameStop's opportunistic bullshit. Not just the unscrupulousness, but the frankly outrageous spin this outmoded and irremediable business put on its decision to continue operating a non-essential business while non-essential businesses around the world have closed their doors during a time when everyone who can has been advised to close their doors. Selling a game a day early is not a safety precaution, it's a bunch of executives working together to profit from a global pandemic that has killed thousands of people. That's what it is. That's all it is. I certainly hope Bethesda didn't approve of this reckless endangerment, and it was especially insulting for GameStop to parade its self-serving decision around as a safety precaution while it faced heavy criticism for failing to protect the health and safety of both workers and customers in order to make money. GameStop employees took to Reddit and other means of public communication to tell the world exactly how shit of a time they'd been having. See, while the company promised the world it was taking coronavirus seriously and ensuring its employees would have access to the materials they needed to sanitize their environment, the truth was very different. Almost as if GameStop was run by liars, which it is. The hand sanitizer promised to retail stores never arrived because there just hasn't been enough of the stuff to go around anywhere. Meanwhile, store managers were told to find their own hand sanitizer and expense the company. But you know what happens in a crisis? Shit gets bought until it's gone. Managers reported a distinct inability to find and purchase hand sanitizer, so many stores around the country simply weren't adhering to the hygiene standards promised by GameStop. Many stores around the country aren't adhering to the hygiene standards set forth by pretty much every single retail company that's keeping their stores open. Such companies include Wetherspoons, a fucking pub, Waterstones, they think it's important they stay open, they're wrong, and Hobby Lobby. Yeah, the CEO of Hobby Lobby says he has to remain open because his wife saw God in a dream. Fucking hateful company, Hobby Lobby, bunch of fucking right. GameStop remained open on the false premise that it is an essential business on par with grocery stores and medical facilities because it sells electronics. The reasoning is undeniably disingenuous and has been proven wrong now that it's shutting down. But just look at this bollocks. Due to the products we carry that enable and enhance our customers' experience in working from home, we believe GameStop is classified as essential retail and therefore is able to remain open during this time. We have received reports of local authorities visiting stores in an attempt to enforce closure despite our classification. I mean, local authorities are telling you you did something wrong and you're faulting them for not adhering to your classification on what the authorities should think is right and I mean, in an ideal world, that'd be great for me. Yes, officer, I was parading up and down the street smoking a fatty blunt and shoving ecstasy up my ass. But you see, I don't quite agree with your classification on what is and isn't an offence. No, I won't pull my pants up. It's essential they remain around my fucking ankles. Sorry, GameStop, that's not how it works. I know to you, I know to executives, you're very used to your idea of the law being placed above, being favoured the actual letter of the law, but this time, you can't really buy your way out of it. Back to GameStop's horse shit, and this is the sweetest fucking plum. We have received reports of local authorities visiting stores in an attempt to enforce closure despite our classification. Store managers are approved to provide the document linked below to law enforcement as needed. So basically, store managers were expected to help GameStop lie to the police because that's what it was. A goddamn lie. GameStop doesn't sell anything crucial to the maintenance of society. In fact, last I checked, GameStop mostly sells Funko Pops and Fallout mugs because they sure as shit struggle to keep selling games after years of increasing failure to keep up with a world that's leaving them in the dust. But such was the flagrant arrogance of GameStop, self-classifying as essential during a time of a major outbreak, and contributing to that outbreak while claiming it needs to stay open for the good of our society. And at a time where emotions are running high and people are scared, managers were being told they should argue with law enforcement. Yeah, because that would have ended well, you irresponsible fucks.
What's wrong with you?
As I said though, it's not just GameStop. In the past week, I've been contacted by employees of a number of other retail chains, specifically EB Games, GameXChange, CEX, and Game UK. And they all report a similarly negligent attitude. Of GameXChange, one worker said, they have completely lost their fucking minds, reporting that management told them right in the middle of this outbreak that their trade-in figures were 4 times lower than expected, and they needed to bring in more second-hand games from total fucking strangers. And you don't want to be picking stuff up from total fucking strangers at the moment. EB Games has allegedly stayed open specifically to capitalise on COVID-19, exploiting the fact that competing businesses were responsible enough to close. Ever since other stores started shutting down, every one of our stores has seen sales skyrocket, I've been told by one worker, making upwards of 3 or 4 times normal daily goals for this time of year. They are unashamedly profiteering from this outbreak, and they don't care. Meanwhile, Game and CEX are aping GameStop's practices too, and staff in all these retail outlets are quite legitimately concerned for their well-being as well as their families. And across the board, with every retail chain mentioned, there is a consistent failure to provide sanitation products and protect staff from each company's flagrantly inconsiderate decision to stay open and expose people to infection. These new and used game stores are what we call high-touch environments. Customers are expected to handle the products. They're expected to run their little fingers over everything. One of the most essential pieces of advice we've all been given is that hand hygiene is fucking crucial. Wash your hands thoroughly, don't touch your face, etc. The coronavirus, like many diseases, spreads effectively through hand contact and can survive on surfaces transferred in this manner. If products and shelves aren't disinfected properly, the stores essentially become gigantic fucking petri dishes. As a high-touch environment, any video game store is an ideal breeding ground for coronavirus, and the ones in charge don't fucking care. If they cared, at the very least, these stores would have suspended trade-ins weeks ago. But no, throughout this pandemic up until now, anyone has been able to walk in still with handfuls of games that employees are then expected to handle without adequate methods of sterilization. Used games are fundamental to these retail chains' business models, so of course they tried their damnedest to not stop doing them, even if they were literally the most dangerous and reckless part of their business model. The CEOs of these horrible companies are callous, disgraceful, obdurate serpents, and only now, after being forced to close, do they pretend they're doing it out of concern for people's well-being. Now GameStop, EB Games, CEX, Game and GameXChange should rightly get all the criticism in the world for exposing their employees to risk of infection by forcing their stores to remain open. One thing they haven't gotten enough stick for is their willingness to actively contribute to the shortages of actual essential supplies by encouraging managers to go out and buy those supplies to keep something so trivial as a video game shop open. There are people with compromised immune systems who can't find hand sanitizer for love nor money, and yet executives at GameStop are telling their managers to grab what they can find just so they can shift copies of Animal Crossing. How dare they, in fact? How absolutely fucking dare they, in fact? But they don't give the first flying fuck. Fact is, with so many other stores closed, so many self-quarantines, and so many people bored as a result of the first two things, game retail was gleefully enjoying some short-term financial gain, and it is short-term, benefiting, and knowingly so, from an international medical crisis. It's been alleged that the same higher-ups passing off their company's inventory as essential items have been positively thrilled with the additional business they've been doing doing in this pandemic, all while their staff has been terrified of getting sick or losing their jobs. And then there's that leaked regional GameStop conference call provided by Camelot 331, which turned a lot of heads. In fact, don't take my word for it, listen to the words yourselves. If GameStop takes down Camelot 331's video, we'll both go down together.
Sometimes we'll bring in, like, controllers and, they're not the cleanest. Is it okay for us to refuse to take those ones right now, or?
In terms of the trays, we're still going to take them in, without a doubt.
Oh.
Knowing that, like any other thing you could handle anywhere, But at this point, we are still taking trades in. Like anything else you handle, you want to be careful with it.
I'm wondering if we've had those conversations at a high level about taking care of the people who work before us.
It's not a perfect world, and I don't have an answer that, yes, blanketly, we would be able to pay wages for everybody who chose not to work.
We're a hot location right now because with people, deciding to stay, or having rather just stay home because like the kids are off, or, whatever number of reasons. Hey, they're coming into our store and they're grabbing product. I could go to the gas station today and use the pump after somebody who's exposed me to it,
Yeah.
Or I could touch a product that somebody touched at the Shoppers Drug Mart and, you could get it, unfortunately.
If we do wind up closing our stores, our staff going to be getting paid?
The truth is that we just don't have all the answers at this point.
It's a daily conversation. It's day by day. It's day by day. It's a daily conversation, daily meeting, daily discussion. It's a daily discussion. It's a day by day discussion. It's part of the day-to-day discussion because it's day by day.
We're taking it day by day.
For the past few years, chains like GameStop have been enjoying a slow and undignified failure to keep up with the modern world. As games find themselves increasingly purchased via digital storefronts, the commercial might of brick-and-mortar chains like GameStop has waned significantly. The company's been losing money, turning recently to corporate maestros like Reggie Fils-Aimé in an attempt to reverse their fortunes. For the particularly dissolute capitalists out there, coronavirus has been a blessing in disguise. They may not even see it as disguised, considering how blatantly gleeful to profit from it they appear to be. Because business was up a little bit, and because game retailers are so pathetically desperate, they rode the corona train in a first-class carriage, and they did not have plans to pass their recent successes on to their workers. As of a few days ago, I was told GameStop has zero plans to protect its own employees financially. Only now, at the last minute, actually after the last minute came and went weeks ago, have GameStop capitulated on all of this, and other game retailers are still at large, exposing their staff and customers to risk of sickness and in some cases, death. I'm not saying game retailers are evil. Landlords who still plan to evict tenants during this outbreak, they're evil. Sheriffs continuing to harass and oppress homeless people during this outbreak, they're evil. Graham Linehan, well, he's just a... GameStop and its ilk may have been negligent, incompetent, dangerous, pleonectic and evil, but I wouldn't call them evil. If we truly lived in a world where people got what they deserved, there would be a fucking reckoning for the executives making decisions safely away from the high-touch, high-risk environments they're coercing their employees into. There should be a fucking reckoning, but there won't be. Not for slime-sucking scumfucks who would rather see people die than see their frivolous, not essential, their frivolous little shops close.
What we don't want to do, though, is come across as fake.
So we're trying to have a laugh and be entertaining. Jesus Christ. But, I do think that this is life for a bit. The studio we used to record at is shut down until further notice, so we're doing everything from a cramped apartment that I wasn't planning to live in for this long. I was on the cusp of moving when the coronavirus thing happened. So we're making do as best we can with not great resources. And don't laugh at me. I was once as you were. Thank God for me.
me. Look what I've become. Look at this animal I have become. Oh God, I've turned the other light on.